Yes. 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 Question. If I recall, is this part of where we appropriated 500,000 out of that rescue fund? Is that where this is coming from? Okay. So then, my next question is, will we now have an updated balance so we know the remaining amount of that fund that we've used for other communities? Okay, all right, thank you. All right, thank you.
Maybe in time to remind people what they need to do to get this, because this will probably spread quickly that there's money out there to help these non-for-profits.
We have posted online, and date is October 31st of this year. And, once it comes to our office, it'll pass on to Justice Briggs, who's heading it up. And, we'll go over that process, and then it'll go to the budget committee, and then back to the Quorum Court. And so all that can be handled through our office, we'll get the application to you, and then Justice Briggs will help you in any way you need to, fill that out.
Okay, so, is it for like 501 series or no? What is it? What is the qualification?
Nonprofit, 500,000.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any questions with that, please call the judge's office, where we'll walk through whatever you need to do. Yes. 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 Yes.
reimbursement that was told to receive from the city of Gulf for their runoff election in the amount of $10,039.79.
Motion, Mr. Brown, second.
Any discussion? Mr. Reed? Mr. Hutchins?
Yes.
Mr. Schiffman?
Yes.
Mr. Stringer? Yes. Mr. Capella?
Yes.
Mr. Schirmer?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. St. Clair?
Yes.
Mr. Swett?
Yes.
Twenty-three, twenty-three. This is a check for a grant from the chief for the public plan early community organization in the amount of $14,707.70, and this will finish that money.
Motion, Mr. Brown, second.
Any discussion? Mr. Hutchins?
Yes.
Mr. Schiffman?
Yes.
Mr. Stringer? Yes. Mr. Capella?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. St. Clair? Mr. Swett?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Ordinance 2224 is reassigning the percentage of sales tax money in the following manner, beginning with the money received in January 2023. And it's the distribution tax, and it takes 3% from the road and adds 3% to the law enforcement.
Second. Motion to, I'd like to make a motion to amend, this is for the sales tax? Yeah. Okay. I'd like to make a motion to amend the, sales tax distribution for the transfer station and rural fire department. 17% reduce the transportation 4%, increase the fire department 4%. Because right now, with the laws that have passed and all funded by the fire department, they passed a law every 10 years, our turnouts are out of date, and they have to replace them. And $3,500 for each firefighter. If you've been in the rural department, our average structure fire is maybe 1 or 2 a year. After 10 years, I was glad to get 20-year-old turnouts when I grew up north. And now we've got to get a training in the academy. If you don't have up-to-date turnouts, you can't get trained. So it's that and plus the other equipment they're having to buy. So I'm asking, the transfer station has roughly 500,000 in carryover from last year. And they've been doing, I'll say this in support of them. The transfer station now is doing very good. It still uses, it gets the sales tax money. It's really being just accrued for the next year. And I think, in all fairness to the fire department, they should get some money to having to fund. They're really paying a lot of this stuff on their own. They, up until recently, all the radio towers and that were funded by them. And it's a countywide system. So I don't think it would be unreasonable to ask that the fire department be treated equally as trash. That's why I'm making that motion.
So I have a motion. What is 1% sales tax on those people?
I asked about the 3% that I was getting to the law enforcement, and I was told by the collector that that would be $800 to $2,000 a month, depending on the fluctuation of the money.
Okay, so this is 2,000 times 12, 24,000. That will be coming out of the county road.
If we went to the process, yes.
Right. Do you think you can afford to lose
I make sure I bid before I offer that money.
Okay,
So I'm trying to
so
help
the
in a
next
way.
question then is $24,000, what's the sheriff gonna do with that?
Yes, we have uniforms, we need new belts, boots for the guys, new guns, we're gonna do, they're not gonna fill the position whatsoever.
No, that's all I'm asking. Is it really gonna make a difference between, and that's.
I hope it does. Yes, I mean, 24,000 dollars is nothing, and they're energy right now, so.
And we're giving them, $860,000 out of our funeral. So,
I got a question.
Yes,
Based on last month's meeting, there's three priorities with the medical, health, the cars, uniforms. It seems like, I could be wrong, in the last, I won't say 3 years, in the last administration, every time there's a new administration, I won't say every time, there's a change in uniforms. In essence, the color. I'm just, maybe that's not planned, I'm just using that as an example. To me, that would be, you can't have 9 ones. If I had 9 ones, that would be 11. I'm just looking at the need for the sheriff to take some of that sales tax money. As far as county general, we've said this over and over again, it just cannot sustain the cash flow out of county general. And I'm with the budget that was submitted from the sheriff's office before Greg, we just said, county, it just inherits, there's a lot of money coming out in January. And we had trouble, and we just don't wanna get burned again. But the last thing I would see is if we hired people and had to start laying off 2 years from now, that laying off would all be forgotten about, and someone would be very upset. I know I would be. So,
well, I offered 3% to help, like I know 24,000 is not.
that's
a lot.
just, right.
After the 4% of the transfer station, I do support rural fire departments, okay? I work alongside some of these
Sure.
guys. I'm not committing the 4% this time because we have some expenditures coming up that were unforeseen. And you mentioned that $500,000, I'll be putting together an ordinance coming up in the future to appropriate that money because I'm gonna have a grader, I'm gonna have a 19-year-old loader that I've gotta get done, and I gotta rebuild the transfer station shelter that was deemed no good by the state of Arkansas.
Okay, I was having the 4% come out of the transfer station
Correct.
portion, not road
No,
department.
I'm saying, I can't say that I can lock that this time, this is the first time I've had a full crew there in a while, I don't know what that's gonna end up with. And again, that shelter that was just built, I had a forensic engineer come up, I had to rebuild it, it's gotta come down and rebuild that, and then I have a grader, that I'll be bringing to y'all to purchase, and a loader as well, so I don't wanna come into county general for that money, and I don't wanna come into ARPA funds for that money, I wanna use that transfer station money if possible.
Would that be, the transfer station money would be used for the transfer station?
Well, the part that's unappropriate, I'm gonna try to fit into if we can to save us from the county general. We have some large expenditures coming up, so I don't wanna commit to 4% this time.
But it would only, if I'm right, I could be wrong, the transfer station sales tax money has to be earmarked to the transfer station. Can't come out, it can't go into road department. Road department has, almost $3 million in revenue right now. You got, not personally to you, please don't take this.
Correct, yes.
I had a problem several years ago. We raised a 0.5% sales tax, which was over 400,000 to the road department fund. We saw nothing of it, no plan how that money was gonna be spent. There was an additional sales tax appropriated to the road department. And I'm not blaming you, please don't, I don't wanna, I'm not,
I understand.
but we're, we had one road done over there. The residents are hearing we don't even have a part-time deputy. Lazy Acres doesn't have one. And I was looking at, the 4% because I think there's an inequality. The fire departments recently, they got 13%, but 5 of that goes to 911. So they're only getting 8%. And that's why it was raised. The judge did to go to an additional 5%. To me, it's not fair. They're having to fund all the services to the county regarding medical rescue. And yet we look at more importantly, where you can take your trash to. Maybe we should raise the trash prices. But I just think it's very unfair to treat the fire department, in all fairness to the county. I'm not too easy on the fire departments because they need to be here screaming and hollering that they provide a service that they're having to pay out of their own pocket. And up until recently, they just was able to get it where, to me, the county tower system is a county tower system. For whatever reason, the county, the departments had to fend for themselves and pay all the costs. Well, that's now with the working relationship. That changed recently. I just think 4% out of solid waste is not a big deal, because if you take solid waste and the road department, now you're looking $3.5 million in revenue. It's not in revenue, it's there. So I'm saying that we're not talking about money. I just think it's very unfair to the rural department, have to fend for themselves.
And again, on each sport.
Yeah, I'm not, I wanted to make it sure, I'm not, I know you are, so I'm not, and neither is the sheriff. I'm just saying, we've got this money in one account that it rolls over. And it's not, I'm not saying you can't plan for it. I'm just saying it's not fair. There's very little plan for the fire department. So, thank you, I'm sorry.
I would like to know what the percentages are now, including the percentage, and then the county road will now be 42%. Law enforcement will be 24%.
Yes.
Transfer station 90%.
17%,
What I wrote down, and then rural fire department,
17%. And 5 of that 17%
Goes to PSAP.
goes to 911. So they don't get that at all. That was so we could meet the 911 funding. And that's it.
Yes, sir.
We can use, we could use some of that ARPA money for the fire departments that we have, 500,000, because they're non-profitable, right? Not for profit. So we could use that.
They have been applying for grants.
No, I mean, they could apply for what we set aside, that 500,000.
That would be a one-time thing.
It would be.
I'm looking at an annual, that they get an increase, because in the way it's now, that percentage in the past was, once they used their expenses, they got divvied around 12 fire departments on an equal basis. So at some point in time, I'm sure with the, and I say this all the time when I went down to the city, unless you've been a volunteer fire chief, every time there's something passed, it's a hurdle to jump. And when you got volunteers that don't get paid, we get less people willing to jump. And I don't know of any fire department in Marion County now that has an abundance of volunteer firefighters. I know our area is struggling, and I know all the others have to be struggling. People, it's just the regulations, or the people is equal to the paid departments, but yet they're not being paid. Some do get reimbursed for the call. So, thank you.
Yes, chief.
Some of the departments are not financially received. Cities would fall under the category of the city charter. Some rural, but most of them are financially received, have financially received. So they would be eligible for, they would be eligible for the funding.
If they are city fire departments, they are not ultimately, because the cities receive their own ARPA money, and so we could not.
That's right.
Yeah, taking another 3% from the road department is gonna make 6% wrong. We started giving up 3% now, I don't think it'd be quite right to go on another 3%.
It wouldn't be from the road department.
Say it again?
It wouldn't be from the road department, from solid waste.
We already talked that, you were saying that 3% was 45, we've already done that, that was 42.
This is the accident, that's accident, so it takes it down to 42, this will use, right?
That's what we already did.
Yeah.
So that was already done, and that was already done.
Yeah, we should just-
So the only thing we're talking about now is the transfer station, the fire department.
That's right.
And we're taking 4% down on that?
On the transfer station, I'm recommending 4% from 21 to
a
17.
little bit steep. The transfer station pays all of its, financing from there for the hourly wages and everything else. The other one, 309, is where they pick up purchasing.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but they have over $500,000 carryover every year. Their carryover it's almost half of the total revenue. Their budget this last year, I just checked, I think it's 498, and they have about a $500,000 carryover. Beg your pardon, sir?
I think dropping it down 4% and moving it over to a mistake.
I don't think, well, I'll say it this way, if you build something, it's operating, and it's doing a real good job, I wanna make that clear, I've got nothing against the transfer thing. But I'm saying, when you look at respective to the transfer station funding and the fire department funding, it's getting very little, and they have to fund it all on their own. I'm just thinking, I personally would have had 25% for each entities, there's 4 entities. I wouldn't have no 56-21. Fire department, you look at prior years, we struggled to go from 7% to 8%. So and 4% from solid waste, I don't think it would hurt them one bit. But it would be transfer station, not road department.
Yes, sir.
Having actually been to the transfer station this past week, and seeing the debacle that we're gonna have to face in replacing a building, I would suggest that if we take from the transfer station, we do it later, but wait until after we, get this building repaired.
Well, here's what I would say in response to that.
Well, you have responded quite a bit.
Well, I know I have, because when it comes to the fire department, I speak very loudly here. And we had a road done over and over, Dry Run Road, I'm looking at the road department in defense to the cost. That road took 9 months, it was the best road in Oakland. Right now, it needs major repair. It was blacktop. It needs, and I'm not, you're saying that you had, a building was built, now it's gotta be torn down
And rebuild.
and rebuilt. And I'm just looking at the road department, but the fire department, I have to do that all on their own.
Well, I've spent time with fire departments too, and I'm working with that.
And I looked at it, 4% is hardly a drop in the bucket when you look at the amount of money they have to carry over for next year.
This is the first time hearing that there's
Yes.
a problem with the transfer station. What seems to be, which building, I go quite regularly. Which
I got a
building is
picture.
it? What seems to be the problem?
The shop,
Okay, I don't.
the main one that covers now, we tried. All we thought was an insurance claim, because the pillar had cracked. I had an insurance judge come up, with an insurance claim, and he let me know that there's no insurance claim to be had, that, our fault was wrong. So I'm trying to contact the company that had built this, and there's zero response, they do not state. And so, the state said that, 15 all prior to state winds or forces of snow and fully shut down. And, the only option is to take it down and rebuild.
Wasn't it a storm that happened to begin with, that the reason that was built didn't look off or something, or wind came through?
That was just something down last year, this year.
I think it was a wind that,
I don't think that covering before, I think this is new.
there was a covering up there that the wind. Storm damage. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
The issue you're referring to, we did have carports over the awning at one time, and the awning that is over now was designed to replace all of that because the carports were in a state of disrepair, they were damaged, and excess wind had ripped the hinges out and rolled it over.
I thought there was an insurance claim on that,
Yes, we did.
which is paid for the.
It paid for a very small portion of the awning that we have now, but good chunk of it, we didn't realize until it happened that the awning we have now was built correctly, front and doors.
Yes.
How much do you charge for a bag of trash now?
We increased our prices roughly 2.5 to 3 years ago. It was $1.50 for a 33-gallon trash bag, and we've increased that to $2. And then for the larger bags, compact is 38, 40, 50, it's $3 per bag, and that is up to 50 pounds. As it says, if it exceeds 50 pounds, we do charge additional fees for that. We are still, to my knowledge, we're still under the average price, but it was roughly 3 years, something like that, when we increased the price. Before that, it had not changed at all, since Rosemary Rogers had taken over roughly 10 years ago.
May I make a suggestion that the solid waste committee meet and discuss increasing the prices for pros and cons of that, since they haven't been done in 3 years? Anything else on that?
I agree. Yes, sir.
Just to put this into perspective, we had $453,000 in carryover in the transfer station, and the transfer station's total budget is $428,000. So their total appropriated funds for this year is less than the amount of money that they carried over. And the total, aside from what they carried over, but they're actually appropriations from sales tax and their fees, was projected to bring in $385,000. Their total budget's $428,000. So they're like $50,000 above what they're going to make from the sales tax right now and their fees, but still under the amount of money. They have less money appropriated than they have carried over. So in the transfer station, there's unappropriated money right now to the tune of $527,000 that's in their account. So they have a great deal of money. I don't know that, not that I'm not speaking for or against that. Those are just numbers.
Yes, sir.
For it out, like the Lehigh Fire Department, we're charging fees. So they're not charging money like some departments. We charge $75 per process every year on our taxes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Respond to that, that's Yellville,
No, Lehigh.
Ray Valley, so that's a class, ISO 5 or an ISO 6? So if it's an ISO 6, you're having, I'll say it this way, if you're only paying about $75 a year, some cities, some fire departments charge millage, 5 mil, but what you're having the enjoyment of through the work of the fire department, you can pick any insurance company you want, and I'll guarantee you, your policy is about half of what it would be if you didn't have it. We're forgetting, at one time, most of the fire departments were class 9s. You only had 2 insurance companies then that would write a 9, now they won't. So I'm saying the hard work of the fire department, the residents are benefiting, but it's not you, not the residents. The legislation changed the standards that are having to eat. I don't know of any fire department that has the only one I do know is, the one from Summit, he's got a lot of money over, yeah, you, Wayne, but other than that, they're all struggling to make their ends meet, and few of them do get reimbursed the cost, but not of them, they're all volunteers. Thank you, I'm sorry for taking, I won't. I'll show you.
I make a motion, we table this, till it goes back to committee.
Hold on, what are we taking?
The motion to amend,
Motion to amend.
I'll withdraw my motion, how's that?
You can't withdraw it.
Okay.
We've already debated it.
Yeah, I'm ready to take work.
Yeah.
Until we get something from the committee about how much.
Okay. I'm fine with me, that'd be good.
I'm not sure that we can table that. What are we tabling?
Yeah, we table the amendment, or we tabling the ordinance?
Amendment.
Well, I don't think that we can table an amendment.
Well, then I can pull it.
and it's not after we discuss it. You can make a motion to,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I don't know how we can get rid of that. I'm not really concerned if we can make that.
Well,
Just shred it.
well, I would,
Everybody back to clock that time, 15.
what I would recommend, Judge,
Yes, sir.
you can, yeah, you can't table that. Table the amendments. Oh, you're, because, well, we've got to vote on the amendment, right?
That's what I think.
So we reject the amendment for now. And I'm willing to come back. I don't have any problems coming back with an ordinance.
You might as well reject it.
I'm gonna,
You can't withdraw, you.
No, I'm talking about, we just voted to amend.
Oh, you voted to table it. You motioned to table it.
If you remove that motion,
I will remove I remove, yeah.
okay, now, we're gonna vote on the amendment,
Yes.
okay?
Now, is this the amendment or the amendment to the amendment?
Just,
What we have on paper?
What in
not
front
the
of us?
original ordinance,
Okay,
Right,
the discussion,
Okay.
the transfer station and the
That's
fire
right.
department. That's what we're voting on.
That's
That
right.
amendment.
okay.
Okay. Justice Chipman.
No.
Justice Reagan. No. Justice McCullough. No. Justice Freeman.
No.
Justice Bickle.
No.
Justice Baker.
Yes.
Justice White. No. Justice Reed.
No.
Justice Hutchins.
No.
Okay. Now, we have the motion to adopt.
Right.
I have some.
First, hang on,
No, I'm not. Right now, right now, we are subsidizing law enforcement alone, $507,000 for county general. The $24,000 that, let's say $30,000, that this is going to do, does not do anything for the sheriff's department. It gives them $30,000, but we've already given them $507,000. All we're doing now is taking from a department that doesn't need to be subsidized for county general and lowering it to where it's closer to needing to be subsidized for county general. It's not much, and it's not gonna happen, but just the principle behind it. Law enforcement has not been told no. Law enforcement has expanded consistently, and I understand that this makes it, the appearance that we're doing more for law enforcement, but I'm not sure at this point what more the county can afford to do for law enforcement. And, I guess I'll be the bad guy and say I think that the $507,000 that we're giving right now is enough at the moment. So I'm against it.
Yes, sir, yeah. No. Discussion. When we were looking at the budget for this year, and we looked at the budget for what law enforcement was asking for, on top of the $507,000, they wanted an additional $400,000. And last year, we voted on the $507,000 with the condition, the DLC prisoners would add, $350,000 to $400,000 a year. That never materialized for whatever reason. But that $500,000 was still there. It didn't go away. So the concern I have is, and we keep saying this, at the beginning of the year, county general does not have the funds because it's all labor, and labor starts January 1st. We may get all the money by October, but now the first 3 months, it just exacerbates the cost of what county general is available. And me personally, when I saw this in the discussion, I said, well, that they didn't start over again with county general, it just was adding to it. So on top of the DOCs that were supposed to take place last year and didn't, but the money is still there, and now it's more money added to it. So to me, at some point in time, that's why I said you can't have 9 ones, you gotta have 1 1. And to have more law enforcement personnel, that eats into labor about the cars. You just can't, county general's gonna be in trouble. They're gonna be in trouble. Because remember, last December, not 22, 21 in December, before we passed the budget, there was an ordinance for raises and increase for the sheriff's office. Not you, Greg, but in December, and we didn't even have the budget approved, and we were now saying we're giving more money, and we don't even know what the budget is right now. And that's all been activated to the current budget. So I'm concerned because, that's why I said with the percentage, I have no problem waiting a little bit. I will be back, but I just think we don't have a lot of money in county general, and when it comes bad, I'm certainly not going to support cutting people.
Yeah, one quick one on this one here. These percentages have been changed 3 times since this was elected people. That's a minor change. It's not supposed to stay the buck. It's just to get a little bit extra pumped up on one side. The judge has said he preferred to pass the 3%. That one will pass 3% on. It's just a way to get him a little bit of that fund, take a little bit of pressure off the general fund.
Last time I'm speaking on it, it doesn't take any pressure off the general fund because they're not lowering what they're asking for from the general fund. It's additional money. But if we're gonna move 3% from the road fund, then I think that we should move the 3% to the fire departments because the fire departments aren't getting $507,000 from county general.
We're voting on the original, we're voting on this as it was submitted. Justice Freeman, no, I'm sorry, no. Justice McCullough,
No.
Justice Scrilla,
No.
Justice Nichols,
No.
Justice Van Curran,
No.
Justice White,
Yeah.
Justice Reed,
Yes.
Justice Hutchings,
Yes.
Justice Shipman.
No.
Did you say it? Okay. Ordinance 2325. This is the amendment of operating budget for the healthcare providers and Medicare Instruction Center. The healthcare providers is no. And this is coming from Fund 1007, local assistance responsible assistance fund. The transfer is the main county expense budget in the amount of $110,000.
Second.
Yeah. I had one issue with this here. Let me try to get to it, everybody, and make it clear. Inmate cost reporting in 2009, the states have a paragraph in their book that says, we believe the 16 counties average is indicating the statewide average. So $33 to $45 cost per day is very similar to the surveys recently years. In the 2021 survey, our sheriff, not before you, not you, he said the cost of inmates was $43.20. That'd be $3.20 more than we got. Actually, that'd be $11.20 more than we got. We only got $32 for them in. They came back in and said we got $31.43, what they said according to their cost right now. What? They have a paragraph in 2021 that reads the same way as another one, except a little bit different. It adds, however, the audit results of the study in recent years show actual costs averaging from $50 to $70 a day among the county sample. The results indicate that counties are still shouldering a substantial financial burden that is not being completely met by the state's current reimbursement. My problem is, I'm not sure how much our taxpayers are paying to hold state prisoners. And it's something I asked, the sheriff, I sent out an email to him, I think this weekend, asking him if they would mind sending me the 2022 some inmate report that they have to make out every year. With this here, this adds $113 per day per inmate, according to last month's survey, 72 people. I don't know, without knowing, and there's no way I can figure this out, it doesn't have to come from the sheriff's office. We have to know what our inmate cost is. It's $43, $30, we don't know. That's it for me, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
in defense of what Justice Rick is saying here, I saw several reports from a couple prior years. What I saw is, and I think it was an honest mistake, not an intention. They didn't include the cost of the jail. And you'd have an accountant look at that when you talk of what's the total cost to fund the department, and you take the total cost, not, and I think it was just simply accounting errors. You look at most of the other reports, the other counties, they show a building. We're paying the 0.5% sales tax on a building that wasn't part of that. Because if you look at, there was a report done several years ago, it showed $97 for prisoner costs with the old jail. And I'm thinking it's a glaring mistake, not including the total cost of the building as part of the total cost for the housing the prisoners. Thank you.
I have the same question I had last night. Is this a 3-year contract?
Yes,
So if you sign with them, it will be 3 years?
yes, but there is a clause that says we can be out there with 60 days.
Because there's no, how are you gonna pay for it the next 2 years, correct?
There is not.
One more question. Maybe,
Yes, sir.
maybe I'm wrong. I saw the budget for health services for this year, but for last year spent 30,000, I think. I could be wrong in the amount, but I would think if you need 120,000, it would be 90,000 net, not the 30 plus 120. Am I wrong in that?
You're right, there's 30,000 going into
Then the 120 should be really,
it's 36,000.
what you're asking for is 96,000. I'm thinking 120, and you're getting now another 130. Okay,
Well, actually, the cost of it would be
120.
36,000, take 36,000 from the 110.
Yeah, that's right.
Because there's already 36.
That's right. Okay. So I think,
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna make it really quick. I wanna address Mr. White's concern by handing him this. And the other concern I have is that last year budgeted for healthcare, we had $30,000 budgeted to get us through the whole year. This year, we're asking for 110,000, and let's just assume for the sake of the argument that we're gonna cancel out the 30,000, we're gonna return that to county general, because that's part of the 507,000. Well, it's actually in,
You've got law enforcement
Yeah.
that's 105, 107.
you're right.
This is law, this is
jail.
Yeah.
Three hundred thousand is subsidized from county general. So let's assume that we're gonna return the 30,000 that we had to the 300,000. So we're only talking about 110,000 for 3 years. And we increased that from 30,000 to 120,000 overnight. And I just don't understand. I listened to the thing last month. I don't know enough about it. I don't understand what we're doing now, but I don't see how we're getting $110,000 if we, why did Clinton not need it? Why was he able to make it on 30,000, but now we're not able to make it unless we have 110,000? It's not, I'm not there yet.
The numbers aside, well, unfortunately, the budget committee meeting was long. But the board meeting was met with testimony on the risk of faith, risk ordinance with, our current, inmate healthcare system is susceptible to lawsuits. And this would give us a liability insurance in that regard. So I support this.
Mr. Chairman. Greg, in all defense, the way it was presented, the way I understood it, I want to say the November meeting is the state, Arkansas Association of Counties was funding that, and they severed that come this January 1st. So it wasn't something that really became a problem last year. It just all of a sudden, you had 3 or 4 months to take action and come up with something starting January 1st. Yeah, okay. So it's all.
So I made one phone call before Quorum Court today. This is as silly as this sounds. This is what I did. I Google searched malpractice insurance for county jails, and I called the first company, asked to speak to a sales representative, and they told me that the malpractice insurance, they called it a 1 million, 3 million policy, and it was $3,000 a year. That's how much their packages started, and that wasn't an official quote, and I don't know what it means. So I know I'm throwing very limited number out there, but there's a vast difference between 3,000 a year and 110,000 a year, and we're already subsidizing 300,000 from county general to the jail. And you vote however you want. Obviously, you're in control of that, but we're going to break the county pretty quickly here.
The other concern that I had last month, and it has not been addressed, is what will we get reimbursed for this healthcare from the inmates? Do you sign them up on Medicaid or RCares or Obamacare or whatever it is? Do you know if any of the inmates have insurance that can bill so that we're not out all this money?
David, can I ask you that? Because I don't know.
Well, there's this Medicaid, and there's a law that was passed, I'm gonna say 4, maybe 5 years ago. That they passed a law that counties can only bill on Medicaid that you have all Scott in the state. In that also, the county can sign the inmate up voluntarily, ask if the city or the city would like to sign up on the Medicaid. There's a cooking process, it is a volunteer type. When this first came up, I was against it because I could see some people making money on the side. Of course, because I got involved in what I do now, get inmates, they come in revolving door all the time. I mean, all the time in the jail. If you get the inmates, they're getting volunteers, and they come in and they're sick and they have to go within the first 24 hours. Have to go to the hospital and they're there for 24 hours. It's only just a small deal, but it does work. I hope that finishes that.
It did not, in fact, you muddied the water.
Well,
Um,
you know, you can't force somebody to take something.
no, but again, bottom line is, are we able to get any reimbursement from any of those inmates when they get health care for that?
Well, you know, we were talking the other day, you know, we've got co-pays, you can get a little back to the co-pay, you know, if the county's got co-pay, we can't, turnkey can't make you do this, so we can, you know, by ordinance, and I think y'all might have, you know, by ordinance, the county, if they see a nurse, it's X number of dollars, if they see the doctor, it's X number of dollars, co-pay, if they, have medicine, it's X number of dollars. It's not a lot of money coming back in, but we're getting a little bit. But, you know, on top of that, you got, if there is, they still have to see it. The good thing about that is, on your commissary, when Otis comes into the town, I'm just using this as an example. He's always in, and that third time he comes in, and he's seen the jail doctor 3 or 4 times. That third time he comes in, and he's got $500 on him. Well, there's commissary, it automatically grab that money and go pay on it. But just something like you're asking, it's not.
So we will not get any reimbursement to help us offset the funding.
Question for Mr. Pickens. What is, the insurance that your company uses? Who provides it?
We're self-insured.
Self-insured?
It's me and Chris. So we are self-insured.
Yes, sir.
Just in the past year, we had 2 inmates that were released upon advice of counsel from the jail before we could get something done by the judge, that were transported to the hospital, and put into ICU, and we died of a couple major losses and expensive hospital bills as a result of that. In the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals of the United States, which is the appellate court, directly below the United States Supreme Court, the one thing they will not tolerate in this circuit is the denial of medical for jail inmates. I can tell this court, having filed civil rights lawsuits against counties in the state, specifically over medical issues, the one lawsuit that I had that I filed against the county, specifically over medical, was because they had an outside contract medical provider that the sheriff and staff relied on their expertise. And as a result, said I could not sue the county or the sheriff because they had a right to rely on the expertise of the doctors and nurses that they hired. This is a big cost. There are jail inmate lawsuits being filed throughout the state all the time. I think everybody here is aware of recent judgments. There's more coming. My biggest concern from the county standpoint is I'm always looking to shift liability. As far as the recoupment of costs for some of these from inmates, I can tell you that one of the things that we can put into place that we don't have right now is if we go with contract medical, we can put an ordinance into place to recoup copay. We can reduce other sources of revenue. I have shifted a lot of what I do into recouping paper stay because that goes directly to the inmate. But right now, we don't have anything in place to recoup medical costs. Now, I visited with the sheriff, and one of the things that we're going to be looking at doing and trying to recoup some of the money for this contract is, we're holding some of the state inmates. If they utilize the service, and they're going to be entitled to utilize the service, I would expect that we're going to send a bill to the state for whatever that they use of our service. And since
has a reimbursable cost, some of the state inmates are on medication, will be reimbursed for that. But we are, without something better in place than what we have, we're looking for trouble. Even if we hired a nurse or nurses to come on the county payroll, one of the things that the nurses cannot do without a medical provider, a nurse can't pass out one aspirin. They can't give one aspirin without an order from a doctor. If they do so, the county's in trouble. Right now, and I don't know it's a fact, but I've been around jails all my adult life. I guarantee you, we've probably got jail staff passing out Tylenol or other pain relievers to jail inmates, and we don't have a specific policy in place. Folks, that's liability waiting to happen. It's only a matter of time. And my only concern in the short term is let's get the liability off our back in whatever way. The sheriff just stepped into something, discovered there's a problem. We're not done with this by any stretch of the imagination. But liability wise, we've got to do something. And it's basically up to you all to make that happen.
Question. Mr. Chairman, I got one question. Are we really talking about two different issues? One is healthcare, and the second one is, liability, insurance, malpractice liability?
They're one and the same. Because on one of the inmates that wound up going to the ICU, they put in a request for medical. It didn't get acted on. They put in another request for medical. Didn't get acted on. Put in another request for medical. It gets acted on, but after the doctor had already been there. That patient wound up having to go to ICU, and we did an emergency get out of jail free card because things didn't happen properly. One is wrapped up with the other. Right now, all the malpractice, if something goes wrong with inmate medical, all the malpractice is on us.
That's because we don't, if we had malpractice insurance.
You're not gonna get malpractice insurance for jail staff.
Okay.
They're not medical providers.
Okay.
This is a quick reminder of the ordinances requesting funding from underutilized funds.
Sir, just to clarify, that's one time thing,
This number can fund this program for 2 years.
one time thing.
But right now, we have another $299,000 fund that will fund this program for 2 years.
Been ongoing,
And
been ongoing.
$3 million lawsuits.
Yes, sir.
How have we gotten to that jail to be ran for 5 years without this? So how did we have insurance last year? The state paid for insurance, right? Okay, how did the state find insurance if we don't have a nurse? I mean, there has to be an alternative. We were just doing it last year. Last year we had an alternative, and now we are completely shut off from any alternative. I hate it when someone tells me that there's no other alternative.
This is on the motion to adopt. Justice McCullough.
Yeah.
Justice Scrivener.
No.
Justice Nichols.
Yes.
Justice Van Turen.
No.
Justice White.
Yes.
Justice Reed.
Yes.
Justice Hutchins.
Yes.
Justice Chipman. Justice Rager. No. Motion carries.
billed for the cost? Or is that part of the $40 they give us?
They think we can do a lot more.
I'm talking about if we had, let's just go for the discussion, 30. Okay. Thank you, thank you.
That's right.
2326, appropriate funds for the purchase of 4 vehicles for the sheriff's department in the amount of $156,136. And for the Americans, I'm hoping it's going to be covered with state law enforcement. I didn't have to purchase a single file.
It's supposed to be forward. Right. None of that problem.
I would like to amend this to three.
You gotta make the motion.
Oh,
Motion to adopt, please.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
You're lucky tonight.
okay, I wanna make a motion to amend it to 3 cars, that's what I said at the last meeting on March the 6th. That I would support 3 cars, and I will support 3 for right now. We can always buy more, 3 tonight. I would keep the car.
No, okay. So have. What are you suggesting, right? Let me calculator. Divide by 4 multiplied by 3, the new amount would be $129,500.
This is wrong, we got to that.
It would be $129,538. Okay, so now we have the motion to amend. Is any further discussion?
What was your rationale for the?
As I stated, basically, even though we support 3, not 4. And therefore, we support 3. Well, no, not really, it's just that it's. Well, I never want to
We would
say
never accept
never. But I feel like if we do 3 now, we can do more later. I don't have a problem with that. But, you know, I would like to start out smaller.
Did we get a second for the motion?
Yes.
Proceed.
Okay, motion to amend, 3 cars. Justice Sherman.
Yes.
Justice Nichols.
Yes.
Justice Ventura.
Yes.
Justice White.
Yes.
Justice Reed.
Yes.
Justice Hutchins.
Yes.
Justice Schiffman.
Yes.
Justice Brennan. Yes. Justice McCall.
Yes.
Okay, now we're gonna vote to adopt the amendment. Justice Nichols.
Yes.
Justice Ventura.
Yes.
Justice White.
Yes.
Justice Reed.
Yes.
Justice Hutchins.
Yes.
Justice Schiffman.
Yes.
Justice Brayton. Yes. Justice McCall.
Yes.
Justice Sherman.
Yes.
Thank you. There's no enough stuff in that BB test. Okay, now. Okay, ordinance 2327. Appropriation for the transfer of funds from law enforcement salary prices as previously referenced
county general, not out of 1,800.
The state has already sent the check for the amount of $10,765 to the county general.
Okay,
It's
thank you.
just being reappropriated.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Trustee Van Kuren,
Yes.
Trustee White, Trustee Reed, Trustee Sucker,
Yes.
Trustee Strickland, Trustee Burton, Trustee McCullough,
Yes.
Trustee Schumer,
Yes.
Trustee Nichols.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Ordinance 2328, this amends the hiring and promoting of the Marion County policy. As you recall, we passed one of these last month, and it's reminded that to compare, it's supposed to be 90 days rather than 60 days.
Motion.
Second.
I agree with that, that's appropriate. I'm a little concerned that we've got the, way that the discretion of supervisor, that gives no oversight to the employees. This year, the employer, so the
Yes.
Trustee White, Trustee Reed, Trustee Sucker,
No.
Trustee Strickland, Trustee Burton, Trustee McCullough,
Yes.
Trustee Schumer,
Yes.
Trustee Nichols.
Yes.
Ordinance of the evening. This was the annual operating budget and numbers report for the public expenditure. And this was, this was to establish a fund in county general of public defender, and we spent, and within the county, service of $190,000.
Second.
Any discussion? Trustee White? Yes. Trustee Reed?
Yes.
Trustee Sucker?
Yes.
Trustee Strickland?
Yes.
Trustee Burton? Yes. Trustee McCullough?
Yes.
Trustee Schumer?
Yes.
Trustee Nichols?
Yes.
Trustee Van Kuren?
Yes.